Story 1. My, 35 female, boyfriend, 39 male, of 8 years doesn't want to marry me. Should this be a deal breaker? I met my boyfriend of 8 years in a pretty complicated context. We were both recovering after a massive accident that injured tens of people, killing dozens, including his then girlfriend of 2 years. We got together a year and a few months after the accident, and our relationship came with many ups and downs, mostly because he experienced great difficulty moving on from his late girlfriend. However, 2 years into our relationship, things became normal and we moved in together, and ever since, stuff has been pretty good. About a year ago, I talked to him about getting married, and he said he's not ready yet, and let's talk about it again later. I opened the conversation this year because he wants us to buy a house together, and to my surprise, he still said he's not ready, yet he'd like me to use my savings to purchase a home with him. I told him I don't think that's right, and he said that he'll buy it himself then and we can share it. I'm uncomfortable about the whole thing because I feel like he only wants my contribution when it's to his personal advantage. Should this make me think twice about the direction our relationship is taking? So I have a couple thoughts about this. First off, little known fact, my partner, Madam Facts, and I, we are not married and plan on never getting married. We just do not want to have marriage in our lives, and I don't have to justify it beyond that. Like, we don't need marriage. And I think that's fine. However, relationships are a partnership, and there have to be, while there can be concessions made one way or another on certain things in a relationship, there does have to be kind of a consensus on certain things. And I think a big one of those is whether or not you want to get married. And if marriage is something that is important to you, but your boyfriend is just like, nope, I want to do the other big things, but I'm not ready for this. At the very least, that requires a bigger, more open conversation. And he can't just be like, no, I don't want to talk about it more right now. Like, no. 8 years buying a house, you have to have that talk. The results might not be great. They might not be a result where you're both going forward together, but maybe they are, but it's only going to happen with talking. Story 2. Today I effed up by agreeing to go out on a date with the school douchebag and getting humiliated. I am a 17 male, and the douchebag, who we'll call Daniel, is also 17. For some history and context, I go to a small school. It's a small school, but we live in a city. My class has around 230 people in it, so everyone knows everyone. As you can see, we're both males. I'm a gay guy. I haven't had much relationship experience due to being scared of rejection. Everyone in my school knows I'm gay. I get made fun of, but it's something I've gotten used to. There are other gay people in my school, of course, but none of them are my type, and I don't really hang out with them. This boils down to about a week ago. There's this guy, Daniel. He's friends with a group of kids who are a-holes and peaked in middle school/freshman year. I know this was a red flag, but up until now, Daniel was kind to me, and I'm not an exactly terrible-looking dude. When he asked me out to dinner, I was shocked, I will admit. Daniel is the school douche. He isn't exactly liked, but his family is prevalent, and his mom is close friends with the mayor or something, and people mainly like him because he's rich. Neither of us present as gay. I mean, if you could call it presenting, but it was even more of a shock for me because Daniel didn't give any hints at all, and I thought he was bisexual when he asked me. This boils down to yesterday night. Day before Valentine's Day, we had agreed to a local diner to get some dinner for a small date. When I arrived at the diner, he said he was going to be a little late. I was fine with that and took a picture of the booth I was in. I waited over 2 hours for Daniel to show, from text to calling his phone. After about 10 minutes after 2 hours, I got a text from Daniel calling me a loser and a picture of me sitting alone at the booth. I then get notifications of his social media accounts and pictures of me sitting alone at the booth with captions calling me slurs and a loser in them. To make a long story short, I went home and cried and gathered the courage to post here. So, Daniel's a loser, an absolute cretin of a loser, and the kind of person who will be nothing after high school. He will be the person that other people occasionally are like, oh God, I remember him. God, he sucked. And that's going to be his life. He's going to make some other friends. He's going to get some jobs, probably, since his family's rich, a pretty well-paying job. But he's going to be kind of miserable. And the reason is because he's a miserable, gross person. And unless he does something to change that and better himself, which might happen, but otherwise, when a person acts like that, no one wants to actually be friends with them. They might enjoy laughing about the stuff that they do, but they're not going to get close to him because he's like that with everyone. He sucks. And the best revenge you can get, we've been saying it a lot on this channel lately, is a life well lived. You're a worthwhile person who deserves love, who deserves a wonderful relationship, and just let Daniel know how much his little thing means to you by not giving an F. Because why would you care about the opinion of someone like that? Story 3. My husband attacked our neighbor and I'm concerned. This couple moved into our neighborhood in January, and I've been having strange interactions with him. I first crossed paths with him taking my younger child on a walk. He was jogging and approached me. He asked if I was a stay-at-home mom, and I said yes. He told me he works from home, so he'll see me around. He commented that I have a good-looking family. He then asked when my oldest child, male, 12 years old, gets home from school, and when my husband does. I answered without thinking. He made a comment about my son being a heartbreaker at school. I felt so uncomfortable after that conversation. I avoided him as much as I can, but he has approached me several times since. Each time he's made a comment about my older son's looks. My son is a beautiful child, and I'm used to getting compliments, but it feels extremely off. One of the weirdest moments was him offering to keep him and his siblings entertained if I ever want an afternoon to myself. And then he chuckled and said, "But your husband probably wouldn't like that." My son likes to ride his bike around the neighborhood, and I've been feeling nervous about that. I've been avoiding taking my children on walks like I usually do. It feels like he waits for us to leave our house. I finally told my husband what was going on Monday evening. He was not pleased. He told me he would talk to him when he sees him, and yesterday he did. We were outside with the children, and the man was getting his mail. My husband told me he'd be back. I felt apprehensive about it, but I didn't try to stop him. He approached him. They talked for maybe a minute before my husband escalated it to violence. He shoved the man to the pavement and then walked away. It would have been a disaster if this man was injured or killed. Hard pavement is dangerous, and if he reports this, my husband could get in trouble at work. I came over to my husband and he said, "I see that look on your face. Relax. I handled it, and that's it. I know he was protecting our child. It was more than deserved, and I'm relieved. I'm just worried about the risk." Ooh. Yeah, I mean, I don't think escalating things to violence in that situation is the best solution. But that neighbor really, the things you're saying are just so many red flags. It just sounds concerning. And maybe it's a legitimately just a really nice, friendly guy. I don't know, but I wouldn't want to take chances, and I can see why the dad would get upset and protective, but I don't know, resorting to violence like that, yeah, you could suddenly get the cops called on you or something, and getting things twisted. I don't know if that helps the situation in the long run, but I also kind of understand a dad being scared of some creeper going after his kids and wanting to be "Look, here, I shove you, I will do worse. Know this." But I don't know if that's the right course of action. I don't know, folks. I don't have kids. So maybe if you've got kids, how do you feel about this? Let me know. I know I say let me know in the comments. I'm trying to farm engagement. Come on, engage with the video. But I really do kind of want to know, because I don't know if where I'm landing. I don't know exactly where I land. So I would love to hear from actual parents, because I feel like you have a different perspective. Story 4. Am I the a-hole for not letting my sister-in-law hold our baby? My wife and I just brought home our beautiful baby. When we got home, I wanted my older son to hold the baby. He's 14, but my wife said no. She said she wasn't comfortable with anyone but us holding the baby yet. I wasn't happy about this, but I respect that. As a mom, she's anxious about how vulnerable our baby is, so I let it go. Yesterday, her sister came over and wanted to hold the baby. I said no, that my wife and I aren't comfortable with anyone but us holding him yet. My wife then said it was fine, that her sister was a special case. I said no, that I wasn't comfortable with it. Her sister was offended and left. My wife is angry with me and says I was an a-hole to her sister. I think I'm just being consistent. Was I an a-hole to my sister-in-law? I mean, if the wife literally said at first that, hey, I don't want anyone but us holding the baby yet, and then you comply with that and are like, no, that's what we agreed upon and I'm agreeing to this, I don't think that that's wrong. I don't think you're an a-hole. And like a 14-year-old kid holding a baby, that's reasonable. I remember being made to hold newborn babies when I was like 12 and 13 and 14, even though I was and continue to be very uncomfortable holding babies. I don't like holding babies. It's very easy to drop a baby. You just have to momentarily stop holding the baby, and that's scary. So, yeah, I don't know. I think, you're being consistent and your wife isn't, and she has more of a right to be inconsistent than other people after what she's gone through, but I still don't think it makes you an a-hole for trying to uphold that consistency. Story 5. Give me a parking ticket for a spot I paid for. I dare you. About 10 years or so ago, I went to a concert an hour away from me in Indianapolis. Decided to make a day of it, going to several museums and spots around the city, each time paying for parking in a garage for 2 or so hours, then going to meander around the area. Finally, I went to a park close to the venue and paid for parking until it was free. I probably paid $40 to $50 for parking throughout the day, enjoyed the concert, but came back with a parking ticket on my car. I think, this is odd, but I'm tired and chalk it up to a mistake. But I decided to take photos of my parking spot, both spots on either side were taken, and all the signage, and head home for the evening, figuring I would sort it out in the morning. The next morning I reviewed the ticket, the photo of my spot, and my parking receipt. The ticket did not line up to the spot my car was located in, and my receipt shows that I had valid parking at the time of the ticket. So I submit an appeal thinking this will be easy. It's obvious that a mistake was made. The appeal was denied. The ticket was for the spot that was not paid for, ergo it stood. I called the office, and the lady said they did not make a mistake, as my receipt showed that I paid for spot X1 and the ticket was for spot X. I asked about the photo proof that my car was in spot X1. She said, well, you could have moved the car. Note that the parking receipt included my license plate number and everything, think Park Mobile-like system. I noted that there were cars and spots on either side of me and that the entire street was full because of the concert, and honestly, I don't think they bothered to look at the photo. Even had that not been the case, I had proof that that license plate had a paid parking spot. No matter what, no dice. I'm feeling petty over this $25 parking ticket at this point, so I called Visa and asked if I could retract the amount I paid for the time that I had parked since it didn't count. I submitted all the evidence and documentation to Visa. Visa, in what was the greatest thing Visa has ever done in my opinion, they agreed that if my parking receipt and transaction number wasn't proof I had paid for parking, then clearly I had paid for a service I did not receive. And they extended my initial request of canceling the one transaction to including all the parking spots I had paid for throughout the system that day, valued at more than the parking ticket. Then they filed a formal complaint on my behalf with a letter explaining why they were refunding me. I would not have been nearly as satisfying if I had not spent the entire day playing tourist in the city and racking up a large parking bill, all with the same vendor. Yeah, I mean, if you have a receipt that you paid for parking and they're ticketing you for parking without paying or whatever, then yeah, you should get your money back. That's dumb. That's dumb on their part. I understand that they probably have to deal with a lot of people trying to rip them off all the time, and that sucks, I'm sure. No fun to deal with. However, it doesn't justify them in ignoring your very reasonable appeal of this whole ticket. So, yeah, I'm glad that they lost money, and hopefully, that means that they'll maybe rethink the way that they're doing things. But probably not. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.